Hello and welcome to GearUp Media's 6 of the Best. Today I am delighted to be speaking with Zoe Layden, the founder and CEO of Clavel Consulting and also Chief Business Officer of Falcon MGA. Zoe is an expert on all things insurance. Zoe, tell us, what is keeping you awake at the moment?
Hey Liz, and thank you for that introduction. Keeping me awake, well, at the risk of sounding very irritating, I gave up staying awake at night a long time ago. But I think in general, the big ticket item about staying awake at night is fear. Whatever's going on with you, fear, and there's a lot of it around. So we can break it down, and we will, but I think that's the big one that everybody has. Whatever their particular one is around their business, their sustainability, the future of what's going on, tomorrow of what's going on. Yeah.
I love that. And, I think this is playing out all over the place. And I love what you're saying. I think there are only really two fears. There's fear of losing what you have or fear of not getting what you want. And that is infecting everyone, which leads us nicely into what do you think is keeping your clients awake amongst everybody's infection with the fear? Because I think we're all impacted by it to some degree or other, even if we're not necessarily surfacing. What's keeping people awake in your sector?
So I'm going to grab onto the future fear that you mentioned. So it's the future of their businesses, and in our particular industry, what we mean is getting the fear around the world getting moving again. Can we get the world moving? The world has grown used to communicating directly by being on air transportation and going to visit clients, potentials, family. This is what our industry needs to happen. We need people to start moving again to maintain the future sustainability and success of our industry sector.
Yeah, I agree. It feels almost as if the more we're staying still, the more, for me, one of the fears is of just stagnating. And I do get that sense that, like you say, we need to be moving, we need to be in touch with people. And how do you think that is playing out if you were to look at the last few months and what's happening today as a consequence of what's happened? What are you seeing as a snapshot, particularly in the insurance sector for aviation insurance?
Well, what we're seeing in the aviation insurance sector is what drives the aviation insurance is the exposure. Okay, so when I say drives it, that's what people are charged on is what is your fleet value, what are your travel trends, and as these stagnate, it creates less value to insure. So that's kind of a specific industry metric. The trends that we're seeing are around people casting around for what can they do to help insurance keep them in business. What kind of insurances are available to maintain their future profitability. That is probably where insurance can help close the value gap, as we say.
I think this is really interesting because I remember we did speak a few months ago, right at the start of the pandemic, and you were telling me that, in fact, some companies had tried to offer a pandemic insurance not so long ago, and people were like, oh no, we don't want that. So I think what kind of products do you think could we be seeing emerging, and what could people be considering as we settle into this phase of the pandemic?
So what products, so when you think back to the fear question, right, or the fear issue, what is preventing people traveling, and these exposures that I mentioned, which is the values, the insured values. It's because people aren't booking their tickets. People aren't moving. Now, a lot of people have the absolute drive to get out there and see their clients. But what they don't know is, are they going to be able to move about freely when they return, or when they get to where they're going? Is their flight going to go on the day it's supposed to go? So giving people the confidence to book their tickets ahead and to plan ahead is really where we need to get to. And from an insurance point of view, that would be more of a, the reaction to the actual pandemic numbers that is preventing these securities being put in place. But from the point of view of insurance, are there products that will protect your investment for your future travel plans? And these are underway. These are being thought about and have been being thought about from the beginning of this. And it's interesting because insurance is known as a distressed buy. So if I go back to when I started working in the business and I took my tests and I had my exams and they were like, this is a distressed purchase. And I thought, that sounds awful. Hey Liz, let's go shopping on Saturday and go buy some distressed stuff. Yeah. So as opposed to saying that, using that terminology, what about thinking of it as insurance? There are products to protect your profitability. There are insurance products to make you money. And that is where some of the thought process is going in to insurance products as we speak.
And that's really what I like again about what you're saying there. I think what's keeping a lot of people going, I think, through this whole experience is the collaborative nature of how we need to come out of this. So what you're describing there is a collaborative brainchild, really, to say, well, what could we do to support the aviation industry? How can you put some mechanisms in place that preserve the integrity of being able to put a business plan together that keeps people flying? Mm-hmm. How do you think, what are some of the conversations that you've been part, without giving away obviously any, of your own kind of, your own client confidentiality? Can you give us a sense of what kind of, that's a wonderful thing, I think, protecting flight ticket sales. What else could be possible, do you think, in an ideal world? What else, are you hearing anything else that is looking at future proofing?
Well, the idea of making future ticket sales possible is a big conversation going on.
Right.
For cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
In business aviation, which is an area that we both work closely with,
yeah.
There are products already in existence. For example, Falcon's product, which is called JetSure, and that protects losses. We call them losses from aircraft on ground financial incidents that cause a financial loss. Now, interestingly, in talking to carriers, charter operators, they don't necessarily see the money spent on getting a last-minute aircraft if they have an AOG as a loss. They see it as, I just didn't earn as much money on that flight.
Right.
So, but so this insurance, for example, pays a difference between the original cost of charter and the increased cost of charter when you have to lease an aircraft last minute or find a charter aircraft last minute. That loss or that less earning is actually right to the bottom line. That is money that could have been part of the profitability at that company. And it's about perception, as opposed to saying, oh, I just didn't earn as much. Well, you lost it. Mm-hmm. You took 10 pounds and put it out the window.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think, I could have bought insurance to protect my profitability.
And that's incredible, because that's a constant theme I hear at events. Oh, our margins are so low, etc., etc. So if you're actually putting in a mechanism that can preserve that, so you can, that's really going to have a big impact on people's bottom line there. So I remember speaking to another insurance broker at the beginning of this, who was absolutely urging people to come and talk. And would you suggest the same for you, that people need to be continuing to have these conversations with you about what could be possible?
Yes, I think there's a certain amount of resignation, like these are the only products available to me, and that's just my distressed buy.
Yeah.
But if what as insurance professionals we are seeking is to actually give clients insurance that they need, that will help them. I mean, not everything is possible, but certainly to realize where the gaps are, and then to work on products to fill them.
Yeah.
That's the ideal kind of gratifying insurance day.
Yeah. Yeah, the collaborative nature again. How can we co-create something that's actually going to work for everybody, and move out of the fear and into faith that there is something worth getting up for and going to work for? And on that, I mean, what is possible for you, both as in Claveau and in Falcon?
So in Falcon, I described the JetSure AOG insurance product. That is in existence, it's clear. And my role is to make sure as many people as possible are aware of it and understand how it can work for them. So love to talk about that. Because again, well, that goes back to what Claveau Consulting is about. I started that a few years ago after I'd been in corporate insurance for decades, with the main idea of looking at products and working on insurance remedies that are good for the industry, things that will actually help the industry that I thoroughly enjoy and support, being aviation, to work better. And the traditional insurances are well catered for, and great brokers out there, great professionals working hard to keep everything flying successfully, profitably. But then there's a whole other world out there of things that people, like I said, where's the other gaps? Where can we fill in? And so that's what I do as the director of Claveau, is think about solutions and working on that type of product base.
So you and I know each other from our work together on bringing more women into the aviation industry, and I know you to be a very ethical, fair-minded person. How is that panning out in some of what's possible for Claveau as we go forward?
So part of you mentioned in the beginning, part of working on the diversity issues, specifically around getting a more balance between men and women in the industry, I see that as something that is of benefit to the industry, for decision making, for the health, for the future security of the industry. And similarly, working towards ethical standards of investment and product development, for example, sustainable aviation fuel, getting as carbon neutral as the industry can, while still catering to everybody's needs to move around this planet. That's an arena. For Claveau, as mentioned, one of the reasons that I started the company was to work on ideas and products that makes the industry more secure and ultimately healthier. And so there's new ideas that are coming up all the time that fit that bill.
And I always thoroughly enjoy our discussions and the positivity, and you organise a wonderful socially distant evening the other night, and it was great. It was just so, I felt really energized, and I always feel that in your presence. So what is it on those days when you wake up and think, oh gosh, for example, in lockdown, you did that wonderful happy lockdown chart, but What motivates Zoe Layden? What gets your juices flowing so that you can share with us and how we can keep our spirits up or get motivated?
Well, some of you out there know I have a small dog because it has interrupted various webinars on this lockdown flow. And so I take her out every morning. And on my Spotify, well, many listen to Spotify, and you never know what's geared up just for you and what other people get. So it's slightly, you know, a question. But this app, this mix has come up called Daily Wellness. I don't know. Anybody who else gets it? It just popped up in August. I have no idea if it reads my mind or what, but it's a mix. It's an hour mix of music and little podcasts just about ways to think for the day, or, you know, being nicer to yourself. Those of us who work really hard don't really think being nice to ourselves is a big priority, or it's like the last thing on your list, that kind of thing. But there's one guy who has a tiny space in the morning, and he's called Neil Breslin, and he's an Irishman. He's a singer. I looked him up. He used to sing. He was the lead singer or something for the Blizzards. If anyone ever heard of them, tell me. I don't know. He is slightly cynical, which appeals to me, and he's not hokey. And he just gives you some really interesting things to think about. One week he talked about the wisdom of Dolly Parton and some of the great things that comes out of her music. I thought,
Yeah,
kind of real. And so I walk flow and listen to that, and I think, all right, what's going to happen today? Got Neil. That was interesting. And then the day starts, and it always takes a different shape. But, you know, keep pushing in the right direction to get us all moving again. That's the idea.
that is wonderful. Thank you very much. And what I'll do is I'll put a note in the comments if you're looking at this on YouTube, so you can access that podcast, and anyone who's into the wisdom of Dolly Parton has my vote. Zoe, thank you so much. It's always a delight speaking to you, and I know I'll want to come back to you again in a few months' time and find out how things are panning out, but there's some great insights. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Liz. Bye-bye.